Welcome, everyone. We're thrilled to have you join us today for this exciting live stream about prototyping simplified insulin dosing solutions. Before we get started, please let us know where you're tuning in from today. So head over here to the chat and let us know from where you're joining us today. I enabled chat for everyone, so you would be able to drop in your location. Make sure to check to everyone when sending your messages, so we make this webinar more interactive, so we can all see your messages. Hi, Carlos from Atlanta, Georgia, I guess. Germany. Hi, Germany, Minneapolis, North County, San Francisco. Hi, Dana. Hi, Diana. Hi, James. Hi, Lorica from Switzerland. Okay. Hi, Christian. Hi, Jesse. Obviously, a lot of people from the Americas. Thank you for joining us from Europe if you are, because I know it's like middle of the night over there. So hi, Kevin from Canada. Hi, Samuel. Okay, so let's see. My name is Julia, and I will guide you through today's session. First, let me introduce our amazing panelists. We have with us today Brian Takle. Brian is the principal UX designer at Medtronic. He will be the main speaker and will also answer your questions during the Q&A session. Brian, would you like to pop up and say a quick hi?
Hey, hello, everybody. I'm Brian Takle. Been working at Medtronic for a while now. I work in the diabetes unit of Medtronic. It's a pretty big company, but that's where I'm at. I've been doing UX design for about 20-ish years.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brian. Then we have Tim Cruz joining us. Tim is a business development manager here at ProtoPie, and he will share insights on transforming medical prototyping with ProtoPie. Tim, would you like to say hi?
Hi, everybody. Glad to be here. Looking forward to seeing what Brian has for us. And like Julia said, if you guys have any questions, feel free to throw them in the chat. We're happy to answer along.
Thanks, Tim. Looking forward as well. Okay, I would like to see, then here's what we have lined up for you today. So first, Brian will discuss how to simplify insulin dosing solutions through effective prototyping. Tim will discuss the benefits of ProtoPie for medical prototyping and the advantages of hi-fi prototyping in general. That will be followed by a Q&A session. So we encourage you to participate actively in our Q&A session. Feel free to submit your questions here via the Q&A window on the Zoom, and we will address them towards the end. So yeah, don't be shy. Please post your questions in the Q&A, and yeah, we have reserved a live Q&A session at the end for you. Okay, then without further ado, let's get started. Brian, the floor is yours. I will stop my share. Stop share.
Okay. I will take the sharing. All right. As I said, hello, everybody. Thanks for joining. My name is Brian, and I work in the diabetes unit at Medtronic within a group called Customer-Centered Design. That CCD group is responsible for designing and testing all these patient-facing applications that help people manage their diabetes. That includes UX design, prototyping, testing, risk mediation, that kind of thing. For those of you who are not familiar with Medtronic, it's a global healthcare company, been around for a long time. It's got about 95,000 employees across a whole bunch of countries and covers a lot of healthcare conditions, of which diabetes is one. And as I said before, I've been doing UX design and prototyping for about 20 years. I've worked in medical device, financial services, industrial measurement, quite a lot of stuff. And currently I'm doing mostly prototyping. And that will become a little bit more apparent in a minute. So our current workflow in this CCD group is that there is a UX group, which is adjacent to me. I'm in a pretty dedicated prototyping group. And they do their designs in Figma. And then we essentially take those Figma designs and port them over into Axure and try to make them into a prototype that the testing team can put in front of people that's pretty indistinguishable from what the real app would actually do. So it gets pretty complicated. A little bit more complicated than Figma can do right now. Figma's coming up, but it's still not in the same ballpark as Axure. And some of the reasons we like Axure are its team control, the version control, and also that the test team itself knows how to deploy these prototypes on a phone and put them in front of people and work with them. But lately, in the last, I would say, year or two, we've incorporated a couple of, we're still doing the Figma to Axure workflow, but we've started exploring Flutter and Swift as well, but largely for this presentation anyway, we've started bringing in ProtoPie. It does a lot of the same stuff that Axure does for us. It can get pretty advanced. It can be indistinguishable from a real app, but it's quite a lot better than Axure is at pulling in Figma assets. Also, it has these on-device functions like camera, vibration, voice input and output. It's way better at animations. It has this really clever send and receive function, which is related to what we're going to talk about. And then it also has ProtoPie Connect, which is really going to be the main focus of what I dig into here. This is not a scientific graph by any stretch of the imagination. This is just me putting a graph together to kind of illustrate in quadrants why we think ProtoPie works for us. And really the animation stuff and the inter-app communication and the on-device functions are really, they're very strong in ProtoPie and very easy to use. So some of the things that we've done with ProtoPie, and we'll get into the right-hand stuff in a lot of more detail pretty shortly here, but on the left side, we created a prototype because ProtoPie can use the camera function on a phone. We set up a prototype where instead of having users sort of laboriously go through a process of pairing an external device with a phone app, typing in codes, that kind of stuff, we said, well, can we just make them like look at, just point their phone camera at the label and see if it could do it. And sure enough, ProtoPie can do that. And then on the right side, this is what we'll get more into. This is related to apps that talk to each other. So this is a pair of apps where there's a dose selector kind of app, and I'll talk about more about what that means in just a second, and then a pen app, and I'll talk about that also in a second. So as far as managing diabetes goes, there's a lot of stuff that people have to know, like, what did I eat? How much is that is carbohydrates? How is that going to affect my blood sugar? That kind of stuff. And so the previous state anyway of that situation is you have to stick your finger, take a blood draw, test it. Very hard. The current state of things is that you have an app that's on a phone, and you slap a sensor on your arm, and the sensor just tells the phone, hey, this is your blood glucose. So that's the function of these glucose apps, what I'm calling a dosing app. So here we have a very stripped down version of what a dosing app would look like. It tells you what your current glucose is, in this case, 175 and slightly rising. So you know some information. You know you probably ate a meal. And so now you're going to come into the app and you're going to say, like, hit this thing that says calculate a dose. Pick a meal. And then it'll give you some kind of recommendation. Does that all make sense so far?
Yeah, makes sense to me, and I hope it makes sense to the audience as well. Feel free to drop questions if you have any. Thanks.
I'll slow down in a minute because it's gonna get advanced, but all right, this is, oh, there we go. All right. So this pen simulator is another prototype that's actually based on a real device that Medtronic offers called the InPen. And it looks just like a real pen, except it has a dose of insulin inside. And you dial it to whatever the thing you want is on the bottom. And we'll see it in action pretty soon. And then it injects that amount of insulin. Now, the clever part here is that the pen communicates to a nearby app to say, I just dosed, 8 units of insulin or whatever. And so we said, hey, can we make 2 prototypes actually talk to each other like this? And sure enough, with ProtoPie, we can. So in the pen app, the user selects an amount that communicates through Connect and goes over to this dosing app. So the dosing app gives a recommendation. You dial something in the pen, and the pen communicates back to the dosing app. Now to get there, because I don't want to go too fast here, I want to look at this send and receive stuff in ProtoPie. If you're not familiar, this is almost like a function call and response. So here, if you click on breakfast, it's got a tap action up there. One of the things that it does is it sends a message, and here it says to the current scene. And I just gave it a name that's called update recommended. Then there's another function in the current scene that says receive, update recommended. So this is just a way of encapsulating repeatable functions, that kind of stuff. And all three of these things, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, will all do the same thing. Send. And send. And then whichever meal sends it, it will still do the same thing. Now, where we get a little bit tricky is there's different channels that ProtoPie has for sending and receiving messages like that. And here we can see, I'm going to show it in ProtoPie as well. We picked a completely different thing called ProtoPie Connect. So when we send a message, we're going to send it to ProtoPie Connect instead of, oh, let me go back. Go to the pen one. So here, instead of sending it to a scene, we're sending it to ProtoPie Connect. And ProtoPie Connect is a separate app that works alongside ProtoPie that facilitates this sort of inter-app communication. And there's a lot of depth you can do with how Connect sends and receives messages. But here we're just talking about one pie talking to each other. So we're going to send this message called pen dosed, and we're going to send a value along with it, which is whatever people dialed on the pen. And then over here, on this prototype, we're going to receive, there's the incoming thing. We're going to receive from Connect the same message and assign whatever value it sent across to a variable over here. Now, when you first set up Connect, it's going to look blank like this. Switch to Connect. I've already set up some stuff. But you can add different pies, that kind of stuff. You can also do really clever stuff by giving it IP addresses or whatever else. And here you can see these messages. I've already done this a few times. But once you get these things imported, you can launch them in web browsers, which is what we see over here. So now I have prototype 1 and 2. They're both running. And here I can pick whatever I want. What did I eat? Well, let's say I ate lunch. So let's go over to the pen app and dial it. But, it says 11, but, I ate a really big lunch. So let me go a little bit further. And I'll hit that. And it communicates back to this other app that says, oh, you just picked 13.5. I can do it again for dinner. Say, oh, well, You know, for dinner, I just had a salad. Let's say 5.5. 6. Why not? And so by tying these two things together through Connect, whatever this app does, it sends a message back to this one, and this says, okay, I got you. Was any part of that too fast?
I don't think so. I think it's clear. The flow was slow enough for us to understand. Yeah. Oh, good.
Okay, all
Okay.
right. That's that. That we got, all right. Over to you, Tim.
Okay. Thank you, Brian, for sharing with us how you use ProtoPie and Medtronic to address diabetes management. Next, Tim will discuss the benefits of ProtoPie for medical prototyping and the advantages of high-fidelity prototyping in general. So, Brian, if you could stop sharing your screen so that Tim can share his, I would be grateful.
You know, I would if I could.
Okay.
Maybe, there we go.
I think it's all good now. There you go. Thank you so much, Tim. The floor is all yours.
Awesome. Thank you guys all for joining. I'm Tim. Again, I'm one of the business development managers here at ProtoPie, and we're just going to discuss a little bit about how ProtoPie is very beneficial for medical prototyping. So a few comparisons of the benefits of ProtoPie for the MedTech industry. Without ProtoPie, prototypes tend to be low fidelity. They don't really capture any of the real world functionality of what you're trying to showcase, especially if there are certain safety aspects or complex functions and communications that you would really like your team or investors, whomever you're trying to make this case to. With ProtoPie, you ensure the market fit, the patent safety, not just with the prototype that you're making, but how it functions in the real world. It gives you those real applicable kind of data sources. Without ProtoPie, you're not really able to interact with much. There's limited interaction capabilities between hardware or devices. With ProtoPie, we give you the ability to interact with these outside data sources, hardwares, whatever you need to interact with to get your prototype functioning in the real world. We give you those capabilities, whether that's integration, like I said, with software or a physical piece of hardware, whatever that may be is up to you guys. Again, there's lack of real data integration. So that limits the accuracy, the relevance, and how you're really able to showcase what you would like your pie to do, or your prototype in this instance. With ProtoPie, you improve and secure user testing processes by multiple different ways. We offer you the ability to download your pie to a local source, share it internally. You can user test on our cloud. We also have integrations with different user testing sites. So there's a number of ways that you can really get that prototype out there, get feedback, and really kind of learn how the individuals that will be using this like it, if there's anything that they would like you to change. So you have that real world, real time kind of feedback, which is awesome, especially in this industry when you have many different people using the product. So you want as many different individuals to give you that feedback as possible. Without ProtoPie, there's going to be some higher production costs. Having to go back and forth with somebody who is building this prototype for you, it's going to involve code. It's going to a lot of back and forth, and that's multiple people working on the same project. So you're going to have to be paying all of those individuals for their time. With ProtoPie, it cuts cost, and we outpace our competitors with our ability to create rapid prototypes continuously with a lot of room for you to move around, change things, test, however you would like that to function in the end. We give you that ability. And again, like I said, it cuts cost. All of this is no code. It's all done within our studio. And then, like Brian mentioned, you have the ability to connect with our ProtoPie Connect to then feed information to and from different prototypes, different pieces of hardware, data APIs. That's really all up to you. And again, these aren't just benefits for the medtech industry. These are just some of the overarching benefits of hi-fi prototyping. Again, without ProtoPie, there are long cycles in the sense that you guys are going back and forth. There's a lot of people collaborating. It takes time to get things done. Teams that are using ProtoPie have seen at least a 2-time reduction in the overall workflow time. They're able to get these projects out faster, more reliably, and like I said, they're real world functioning. Without ProtoPie, there's no real interactivity between either the pies, the prototypes that you're creating, or any outside hardware or data. With ProtoPie, we're able to create fully interactive, realistic prototypes that function like the end product without any code and with simple conditions and variables. Again, no ProtoPie, user testing can be a bit of a hassle. You have to walk them through exactly what they're supposed to be doing. They don't really have the ability to explore, test out, and see how the end product will really function. With ProtoPie, we give you that ability. With our player app, the ability to interact on desktop or on device, and by on device, we mean tablet, phone, or what you're prototyping out for. It will show you how it really works. It's going to give you a sense that this is how the end product will function. And again, feedback is always welcome. So with the user testing that we have, the different abilities to kind of go back and forth, be it in our studio or in the studio with your team or just with your users, it's super beneficial for your end product. It can be difficult to capture, like we said, user feedback. A lot of what we're talking about today is ProtoPie not only gives you the ability to build these real world interactions out, but it also gives you the ability to get the individuals that will be using these products to give you their feedback in real time. So it makes a more effective app, and it makes a better, more secure end product. That being said, these are only a few of the benefits that high fidelity prototyping and ProtoPie offer, not just like we said for the medtech industry, but just multiple industries across the board. If you're interested in learning more, please feel free to scan the QR code here or reach out to enterprise@protopie.io. We're happy to answer any questions that you guys have. And yeah, like I said, we'd love to hear more about your prototyping needs and see how ProtoPie really would fit into your guys' workflows. Thanks.
So much, Tim, for reminding us, or for some of you that are new to ProtoPie, and that the benefits of ProtoPie for medtech, health tech, but all other industries in general. Okay, then it's time to kick off the Q&A session. So I'm gonna head over to the Q&A here. You can still leave your questions, so feel free to still post them. Okay, so Q&A, we have this feature where you guys can upvote the questions that you want to have answered first. So I'm gonna start with the question from Rodolfo Prada. So Rodolfo is asking, Ryan, could you share how the CCD team is structured? Meaning researchers, industrial interaction designers, developers, what roles are involved in this activity until reaching a point to start creating a prototype?
Industrial design does not figure into this. But there's interaction designers, which I called UX designers. There's no developers on this team either. So this entire team hands over stuff to a development team that's separate. But the researchers and the what we would call interaction designers, UX and prototyping are all in one team.
Okay, Rodolfo, I hope that answers your question. Thank you so much, Brian. Let's move on. Okay, this is a question related to Connect. How did you go about learning Connect? How long did it take?
How did I learn about Connect? I'm not really sure. I just saw a problem and decided to try to attack it. There's some very technical people that work with me on my team, and they were the ones that clued me into Connect. How long did it take me to learn it? Not long at all. It really was not a high learning curve for me.
Awesome. Tim, if you could share that link to ProtoPie School Connect course that you mentioned about, that would be great. A question related to that, to kind of your background, Brian. Did you have coding background before starting with ProtoPie?
Well, I'm a little bit of an odd duck, so yes and no. I was an English major. I kind of rolled into doing prototyping because I could. I had taught myself several programming languages, so I'm familiar with how coding works. I'm pretty okay with that. I would not consider myself a developer though.
Okay, thank you for
So,
answering.
so I guess the short answer there is like, no, you don't need to be a developer to use ProtoPie. Yeah.
Correct. Thank you. Okay, a question related to the prototype you just showed us. Is the glucose monitor and the pen function two different apps? If so, why not make them all in one?
They could be all in one. There's not a huge reason not to make them all in one, just they happen to be two different apps, and we thought, can we make them talk to each other?
Okay, Hanos, I hope that answers your question. Another question related to user testing this time from Ben Drews. Brian, are you conducting these user trials remotely or in person?
I think primarily these are done in person. The testing team, this is one of the other things about ProtoPie that's pretty cool. And I like this about Axure as well, is that there's an app that you can put on the phone, and then you can deploy prototypes directly to that app. And people can just like fire up the app, launch the prototype, and it works on the phone pretty much like it would work for anybody else on the phone, like a real app. So yeah, they get deployed on a phone and we test them on a phone. That's the main way. Yeah.
Right. So Manish and Javier, I hope this also answers your questions about user testing. The app that Brian is talking about is ProtoPie Player, which can be downloaded from the Apple Store or I
Yep.
guess,
You go to Apple Store or Google Play or whatever.
yeah,
Yep.
and download it for free, install it on tablet and mobile devices. So it's not ideal for desktop testing. For that, we recommend ProtoPie Cloud. Okay, thank you so much. I'm gonna mark these questions as done. I have used ProtoPie for a while now in the industry. I'm soon switching to a new medical company, my first medical one. They merely use Figma for prototyping. How do you recommend that I best introduce and convince them to also leverage ProtoPie there?
Well, this is getting to be a harder question now that Figma is really ramping up their prototyping capabilities. Figma is getting pretty cool. I would say that well, first of all, if you want to do the device function kind of stuff, like using a camera or vibration or voice input and output, I don't know that there's really any good substitute right now other than ProtoPie. There's a lot you can do in Figma right now, but I would say a lot of the animation stuff is actually more challenging in Figma yet. I think that's where I would go. Is like if you want the device functions or and like I just showed, communicating between two different apps, or I didn't go into this, but you can use ProtoPie Connect to communicate to pretty much anything. Like if it's going to give you back a REST API, like a JSON or something like that, that's fine.
Great.
And you can't get that with Figma or even Axure.
Yeah, and ProtoPie supports import from Figma. You just need to import your designs.
Yeah, and
And
like, yeah, I touched on that really briefly before, but yeah, the import from Figma to ProtoPie is really clean and really good.
Exactly. And then you can just add all the interactions. And then if you want to go even more advanced, hardware, software interactions, integrated prototyping with ProtoPie Connect.
I guess maybe I mean, if you're not looking at the actual on-device functions, like the workload of doing prototypes in Figma, I think is much higher than doing a prototype in ProtoPie. But
Thank you, Brian. We have a few questions actually related to dev handoff. So do you use ProtoPie for dev handoff, and what is the feedback from developers when you switch to ProtoPie?
we do not use it for dev handoff currently. No. Right now it's a very manual process. Yeah. Well, I mean, we're getting there, but ProtoPie is not part of that.
Okay. Thank you, Brian.
That'd be cool if it could happen, but it doesn't happen right now.
Yeah. So yeah, we do have a handoff feature from inside Studio, which will allow you to kind of generate the specs of your interactions that you can hand over to your devs. So if Tim, if you could share the link to the handoff feature, it would be great, just in case people want to check it out.
There could definitely be stuff I don't know about. Right? Yeah.
Could be. That's why we're having this session to share and to learn. Okay, what are some potential and happy paths here from Sebastian Palma?
Unhappy paths in the stuff that I showed.
So Sebastian, if you would be willing to elaborate a little bit, what you meant by unhappy paths?
Yes,
Is
yes.
it the testing? Is it like the
I mean,
prototyping?
there could be stuff like the pen doesn't talk to the other device, or you lose connectivity, or it can't figure out what an appropriate dose is for you right now. I mean, there's all kinds of ways that this could go south. That particular prototype is way too simple for any of these contingencies, though.
Thank you. But then again, everything is happening in a safe environment. It's a prototype. You can always iterate. That's why you do user testing. Thank you, Brian. Then this question comes from Ryan's hearing. Brian, did you and your team consider using a physical pen with Arduino or something similar? Why or why not?
I'm not sure what Arduino is, but honestly, I think it would be really cool if we could use a physical pen, and I just haven't explored whether that could work with prototypes like this. It might be possible, given that it's sending signals. I mean, we might be able to intercept it and do a REST API or something like that. I don't know yet. We haven't tried it.
Yeah, so ProtoPie Connect does have with a Arduino plugin integrated. You can connect a bunch of Arduino boards if you want to do like physical testing. So yeah, Ryan, we do provide Arduino integration as well. Okay, there are a few questions about the enterprise plan. So Tim, if you could tackle those here in written, I would really appreciate it. This question was answered. Brian, how many designers in your team are expert in ProtoPie? Do all of designers in your team use ProtoPie or mix with other prototyping tools?
How many are experts?
I guess, yeah.
Out of, I don't know, like 5, 6 experts probably.
Oh, that's a good number. Thank you. And do they all use ProtoPie or do they also use other tools to
I
help?
would, well, out of those experts, maybe 4 use ProtoPie. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Mm. Brian, have you come across any limitations while using ProtoPie? That's an interesting question. Good question.
There are some, I would say, designerly things. It's not a lot of stuff. There's some designerly things that don't quite work yet. Like if you have a block of text, you can't change individual pieces of that text to a different font.
Okay.
Very small designerly kind of things, you know, that get somebody like me, but
Mhm. Yeah, we
not a
are.
lot.
Mm,
Not a
yeah,
lot.
we are working on improving the Figma import. So we hope to bring more improvements this year to make that design import experience even more seamless. So please, please be patient. Please stay tuned. Okay. This question comes from Manish Arora. Can ProtoPie-based evaluations be used for formal usability evaluation, i.e. those required for regulatory documentation? Yeah.
Is this a question to me?
To you, yes. Have you used ProtoPie for formal usability evaluation? Have you used evaluations for
I think the
ProtoPie?
I think the short answer is yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you do your diligence in making the prototype, I think yes. Yeah.
Yeah, sweet and simple. Thank you. Let's see. Can you talk about some common challenges faced when prototyping for medical devices and how ProtoPie helps you to address them?
For medical devices.
Yes.
I don't know if there's anything super in particular with medical devices, although just the fidelity is the main thing. You know, when we're talking about building and prototyping things for financial services or industrial measurement, the two other things that I've done a lot of, you know, you need them to be, the app itself needs to be accurate and validated, but the prototype does not really need to be. It just needs to prove a concept, where in medical device, we're talking about like risk mediation. So it really needs to conform as accurately as possible in every single aspect to how an actual app would work. So I think that's the main challenge there. Did that answer the question?
I hope so. Yeah, it was clear to me. John, if you need the further elaborations on that, please let us know. Thank you. Okay, let's see. From Needy, while conducting user testing with ProtoPie, have users found it easy to use or did it require a heavier learning curve?
I don't think there's any difference at all from a user perspective with ProtoPie versus, say, Acture. The ProtoPie player does require a little bit more setup than the Acture one, but not really anything incredible. It's really just fire and play.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, I am going through the questions. Okay. Brian, do you prototype the whole app or just certain parts?
Generally speaking, well, let me pull back a little bit. We have prototyped almost the entire app, but not the entire thing. No, it's usually limited to what parts need to be tested now. Because if we prototype the whole app, it's going to be enormous.
Makes sense to me. Okay. Is your whole design team working on the same ProtoPie or one at a time? And I'm gonna tie this question with if you have many ProtoPie experts in the company, do you wish that ProtoPie had real-time collaboration?
Yes, I do wish it had better collaboration. And I'm not going to put Acture as the top of the top here, but it does do a pretty good job of team collaboration and team projects. And I don't, as far as I know about anything in ProtoPie that actually does team commits. Am I wrong?
So we do not support a live collaboration, meaning several designers working on the same asset.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking.
Exactly. So it doesn't work like in Figma. It's one designer working on a file. You upload it on the cloud, and then you can just import it and then start working on the same file.
Yeah, so it's a little bit more manual handoff. Yeah.
Correct. So yeah, we do not encourage you to do live collaboration because that's not going to work. Yeah, so we recommend using one person at a time, doing the design, and then resuming the design from the prototyping from there. But yeah, we do have version control. We have the team cloud space where you can add all your projects. Yeah, it's a feedback that we've been receiving. We are we're not trying to become Figma, but definitely we're working on or bringing more real-time collaboration features. Thank you for addressing that. Okay, how effective was creating a simulation of the hardware device on ProtoPie? From a user testing perspective, did it provide the same experience you were hoping for?
For that particular situation, it worked just fine. Yeah, I think that because the people that were involved were already familiar with how a pen worked.
Okay, thank you. The designers in your team learned ProtoPie at Medtronic, or did they know ProtoPie from before?
Oh, I think we all learned it here.
Okay, and you mentioned you have 6 experts, which is
Well, I'm
great.
not saying 6 ProtoPie experts. I'm saying probably 4 ProtoPie experts.
Okay, thank you. What other functionality have you found to be most useful when designing interfaces for physical devices?
Well, this, I think, for me, gets into some of the ProtoPie things that exist that I don't think anything else really does, which is the camera, the vibration, the sound input and output. Like well, no, I did one other one too, which was proximity sensor.
Mhm.
I did that as well in ProtoPie. These are things that I don't think you can really easily replicate anywhere else.
Thank you, Justin. I hope that answers your question. We have a question regarding FDA approval. Does Medtronic require prototypes or UI designs to be submitted for FDA approval? If so, does your team submit Figma exports or ProtoPie links?
I don't know if I can really speak to the entire chain of what the UIDD is in Medtronic. That's not really my place. I will say that the prototypes that we make don't go in the UIDD chain, if that makes sense.
Okay, thank you. So we have a question regarding Bluetooth and what type of connections and how you can establish a connection. So I just wanted to, I think Tim already answered this, but yeah, basically in ProtoPie Connect, you can use Bluetooth, you can use, you can scan the QR code, what else? USB cable.
Maybe Tim is going to answer this better than I can, but
Yeah. So yeah, we do provide several ways of establishing a connection within both ProtoPie Studio, our desktop prototyping app, and ProtoPie Connect, the companion app to Studio. Okay.
I will say it's pretty easy, but
Mhm. And I'm providing a link for that person for voice prototyping and just custom plugins in general.
Okay. So Nidhi and Diana have similar questions related to Figma export. So also, do all interactions prototype in Figma need to be rebuilt in ProtoPie when building a prototype there from Figma assets?
oh, if you made interactions in Figma and then tried to pull them over into ProtoPie, I don't know if I've really tried that. I'm just used to pulling assets from Figma. I'm not sure. That's a good question.
Yeah.
I don't know the answer.
Yeah, so you can, the short answer that no, you do not have to rebuild everything. That's why we have this export function. You might have to, so you can import objects and scenes. Scenes are in ProtoPie. But, you can also import, one layer at a time, one object at a time in case something didn't go right. But the answer is no, you do not have to rebuild everything from scratch. Okay, we're almost done. We have two more questions. Can you share any best practices for someone new to ProtoPie to get started quickly?
Is this a Tim question?
I think it's right. We have plenty of tips, but we want to hear from you.
Man, I just dug around in the ProtoPie blogs and the site itself, and I thought it was pretty informative. Yeah, there's plenty of YouTubes out there. It seemed, I mean, I'm like I said, I'm kind of an odd duck. I have kind of a technical background. Not really though. I'm an English major. It wasn't that hard for me to pick up.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing us your experience and how you got here. Have you tried this method by connecting a Medtronic pump with an application? If so, how did that go? Any particular difficulties?
I think I touched on this a little bit ago, and the answer is no, I haven't tried this, but this is a great idea. I would love to see if we could actually make physical devices talk to prototypes. That would be really cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So definitely.
I mean, as long as the device is like sending its stuff to somewhere that Connect could grab from, it should work. I just haven't tried it.
Yeah. Yeah, so we have a bunch of plugins, predefined plugins in Connect, and then we also have the ability for you to import your own custom plugins in case you want to, connect any type of hardware that's not particularly supported. So we can definitely support that. Last question, and then we're gonna wrap up here. Was it difficult to get budget for using ProtoPie? How did you get it?
Well, it wasn't difficult for me because I was not in charge of getting the budget. Um, it's a little bit of a challenge. I will say this, ProtoPie is kind of expensive, but we've so far been able to make a case for keeping it around and because it does stuff that other things don't do.
Okay.
So not terribly hard to make a case for it, but again, I was not on the front lines of making a case for it, so I can't speak for sure.
Okay. And thank you, Brian. And that concludes our Q&A. We managed to answer all of the questions. Thank you so much for your patience, for sending us all of these amazing questions. I hope we all learned. Okay, it's time to start wrapping up. Thank you everyone for participating in our webinar. I want to give a special thanks to Brian for sharing insights into prototyping for MedTech and more specifically simplified insulin dosing solutions for diabetes management. Thank you, Tim, for explaining why ProtoPie is the best choice for hi-fi prototyping and also for MedTech prototyping as well. And shout out to the ProtoPie team for making today's session a success. I will see you at the next live stream. We have a session about the Unity plugin. I will be sharing more details via email. So please look out for an email with a recording and more resources that we mentioned during today's session. Okay, then I will see you at the next one. Goodbye. Thank you.